anybody like to start today? Anything to explore? Anything to share? So I just want to ask, so is it okay if I speak in English? Do you understand enough?
I mean, is the only way. Yeah.
No, I can speak, I can translate. But if you understand English,
No, I understand.
then when you want to speak, you can speak in French.
Okay.
And I will translate. But when I speak in English, can you understand?
The most.
50%, 60%, 70%?
65.
65%. And you, Fabio?
I can understand.
You can
but
understand.
I can also help if there's something you can.
Or if there's something you don't understand, you just ask me, and I'm happy to translate into French.
Okay.
Don't hesitate. Hein? You just... Okay. Tu peux parler en français si tu veux. Si c'est plus facile pour toi.
Est-ce qu'à la place de toutes tes consciences, quelque chose qui me parle un peu plus et le mot conscience est un peu abstrait pour moi, tout est réalité, est-ce que ça fonctionne aussi?
So instead of using the word consciousness, because for me that's a bit abstract, he says,
Yeah.
can we change the word to everything is reality? Because in the end, it's just a word, it's a conceptual description. So as long as you understand what that word means, that's the most important thing for your understanding. I sometimes use the word chocolate. Everything is chocolate. And then one day, we were in Oroville actually, and we were doing a retreat. And for some reason I decided that day to change the word and to use a word that people don't normally like. And I don't like the word either. So the whole satsang, well, I started, and instead of the word consciousness, I was using the word diarrhea.
Diarrhea.
Diarrhée. Diarrhée? Diarrhea? Quand on a mal au ventre?
Ah, diarrhée.
Diarrhée. So I said everything is diarrhea. And after about 5 minutes, one of the Polish men, he said, Ragi, why are you using this word? I don't like it. And I said, that's exactly it, because we get attached to the word.
Understand.
We get really attached to the word, to the concept. So then we had a discussion, and many people said, no, I don't like it. I said, come on, can't you see that you're attached? You like this word, you don't like that word. You like this concept, you don't like that concept. So the ego intellect gets attached to the concept, and then it becomes another belief. Automatically. We talked about that the other day. The intellect is always wanting to create a new belief, a new object. But if it helps to change the word, and you're aware of that, reality is another word.
Yeah. And I'm looking for maybe that or something else. So for some sentence I have to repeat when I discover something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with the acceptance. Yeah, I'm looking for sentence to come back to this idea that.
So let's take a kind of extreme example. Everything is wrong with the understanding.
Yeah.
Because it's just intellectual understanding. Yes? So intellectual understanding is useful, but it's limited. It's not absolute. Yeah? So if you understand that, no matter what you've understood, it's all wrong.
Yeah.
It's all wrong. or it's limited. So in that moment, consciously or unconsciously, you let it all go. Let's let go of all the concepts. Let go of everything we've learnt about who we are not. Even let go of the idea of wrong and right. Yes? Let go of the idea of understanding, not understanding. Let it all go. So no concepts, no ideas, no beliefs. Nothing for the intellect to hang on to. And then just see how you feel. See what's here. So what is here? When you have no ideas, no beliefs, no concepts, what is here? What's happening? Who are you? Anybody? What is here? What's happening? Who are we? And we have no beliefs, no ideas, no concepts.
Yeah.
Okay? So now let go of memory.
Right.
That's a word you've learnt.
Yes.
Would you agree? I am is coming from memory.
Yeah.
Yes? Even I is a word, as a thought, is from memory. So we let go of that. What is here? Who are we?
Well,
It's a nice idea.
again.
Let go of that.
So you can say.
That was a good concept.
Yeah.
You can't what, sorry?
The world is limited, so you can do anything. You can.
Okay, so what is here? Who are you? If you can't use words or memory, if you can't use concepts or ideas or beliefs, then who are you? What is here? What's happening? What is this? Something is here. Because the five senses are still working. So we're seeing, we're tasting, we're smelling, we're touching, we're hearing. Something is here. So there's an experience of something here. But without memory, we can't describe it. We can't know it intellectually. But we can't also say nothing is here. En même temps, on ne peut pas dire qu'il n'y a rien ici. On peut admettre qu'il y a quelque chose ici. On ne peut pas dire ce que c'est, parce qu'on ne peut pas le décrire sans mémoire. We can't deny something is here, but we cannot describe it if we don't have memory. 5 senses are working. Things, yeah.
I wonder, in your experience, how I can connect very easily to the fact that the word at some point just falls off, and there's no word, and there's nothing you can say about that, and whatever whatever movement at that point is wrong, because you don't need to move at that place. There's nowhere to go. However, the word is leaves the object. Say, I'm observing something. I'm here with you. The word falls away. But there's a kind of representation. I feel sometimes I wonder if in your experience you can touch some representation that is kind of beyond the word. It's almost like half an image, half a thought mixed with this.
Definitely.
And what do you do with that? Because there's no longer any concept
Nothing.
to get with it.
So I'm not saying this so that we do something with it, because that would be the intellect that comes back, and its normal functioning is to want to do something or not do something. That's the duality of the functioning of the intellect. So this is just useful to notice for the intellect, actually, that at the same time there's something here beyond thoughts, beyond the duality of thoughts. That's all. All of this is for the intellect, because when the intellect is not here, there's no seeking, there's no questions, there's no wondering, there's no...
And would you agree that the representation is just an aspect of this?
Absolutely.
And it needs not to go.
Absolutely. Otherwise, there's a trying to stay in this, trying to have no thoughts, trying to be in the now, trying to be in the present. All that's useful for many of us, but then when we've understood what it is, we don't need it anymore, like any practice. Once something has been understood, intellectually first, and then beyond the intellect, practice is not really needed anymore. Sometimes the practice continues because we enjoy it, pleasurable or satisfying other needs, not just intellectual needs. Yes? So many people continue to practice something without actually needing the understanding from the practice. It could even be a daily practice like Maharaj, Nisargadatta Maharaj. You understand so far? Nisargadatta Maharaj used to do puja every day in his house. And somebody asked him, why do you still do puja? He had his shrine, his little statues, his images, and he used to do puja. And his answer was simple, I enjoy it. So that's why I do it. Tu comprends?
His teacher told him to do it, and he did it, and he enjoyed it. I'm going to share two things. First, when I sit here, despite I usually think that I have enough of teacher and stuff like that, I got enough. I feel a tension in the body. Tension in the body is telling me you want something from him. You know? So you miss something, you want something. And that's more than right or wrong, is what is here, you know, passion. Passion because I miss, I want something. That's And this tension is calling me back home. It was telling me, John, come here. He's already, he's already like it's supposed to be. He's already, he's already. And that tension is very helpful for me, and it's my practice, it's my help. He's asking me to come back to drop what I grasping. And just to share the way I live I mean in this moment. When you ask, about what is that, what is doubt without time, without word and concept. Somehow is a concept as well, but I really like the Douglas Harding headless way, I mean, the fact simply is everybody way. Simply you see here there is a space, and this is the same space there, and there is no inside, outside, outside are the same. This is an open space, and my question is about this feeling there is somebody in this freedom, in this empty space. Anyway, you feel a little the tension in yourself that telling me there's somebody here, somehow in the center of this open space. But also there is the feeling that this somebody is not necessary. I mean, there is just this emptiness, this freedom, this puff. Yeah, just that.
Thank you. So if we take the concept, and you're right, it's just a concept. Everything we're saying is a concept. If we take the concept, there's no freedom. There's no space. There's no home. Even that's a concept. There's no coming back. There's no tension. Then what? Okay. Once that's understood, then what? Whatever we're going to say about experience, whatever the experience is, whether it's coming back and recognizing there's nothing or something, there's nobody or somebody, it's still a concept. It's still some kind of claim. Yes? Positive claim, negative claim.
But I feel a little less concept than the other stuff.
I agree.
This vision, because it's about just to watch.
Okay, so then who's watching? Nobody's watching. Okay. But if you check, the intellect wants to arrive somewhere. Wants to feel, okay, now I've understood. Very subtle. And then wants to confirm it in some way by experience, from experience. So even nothing, or nobody here, or freedom, or space, is a kind of an experience which the intellect is wanting to confirm its own understanding with. And the intellect is, of course, not only the intellect, but it's the ego intellect. Yes? So if the conclusion is there's nobody here, it's the ego saying there's nobody here. The ego is saying, now I'm free, or the ego saying, now I'm space, or the ego saying, now I'm consciousness, or the ego saying, now I'm enlightened. It's always an egoic claim, ego intellect, yes? That's okay, because that's the functioning of the ego intellect. It has to happen that way. Yes? But the ego intellect has also the capacity to recognize this is still a claim. Yes? So saying there's nobody is still a claim. It's the opposite side of the duality of there's somebody. There's somebody, now there's nobody. I'm not free, now I'm free. Yes? There's no space, now there's space. It's always duality. Even the idea of consciousness is everything, reality is everything. It's still duality. Consciousness is everything. Consciousness is nothing. That's duality, yes? There's reality, no reality. That's duality. And that's the way the intellect functions. Logically, let's say the concept of somebody, nobody. There's somebody, the opposite is there's nobody. Yes? What's beyond these two? Il y a quelqu'un, il y a personne. Ça c'est la dualité. Qu'est-ce qui est au-delà de ces deux? What is beyond these two? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a au-delà de ces deux? That's the third thing. Yes? What's beyond this? Qu'est-ce qui est au-delà de même ça? Nothing can be said anymore. There's no claiming anymore. Yes? In that moment, we can simply call it a knowing beyond intellect. A knowing beyond duality. We can never put it into words. You understand? À ce moment-là, il y a une sorte de, j'utilise le mot knowing, le mot knowing, une sorte de compréhension, une sorte de connaissance, mais qui est au-delà de l'intellect. À ce moment précis. De l'intellect. Au-delà de la dualité, au-delà du troisième aspect, au-delà de la dualité, c'est la non-dualité. Au-delà de la non-dualité, il y a à ce moment-là une sorte de compréhension. Mais on ne peut pas le décrire, on ne peut pas le nommer, on ne peut rien faire avec. Mais c'est quand même là. C'est goûté, on peut dire. C'est sûr. Oui?
Tu peux traduire claim?
Revendiquer. Oui? Alors on est ça, le soi-disant quatrième, on est le troisième, on est la dualité, et puis on est aussi un des aspects de la dualité. On est tous en même temps. Sinon, on est toujours, l'ego-intellect est toujours en train de chercher ce qu'il est ou ce qu'il n'est pas. Tu comprends ça? L'intellect ego veut se positionner, veut revenir à la maison ou à la compréhension ou à la réalisation. Et ça devient de nouveau une sorte d'objet. Je suis à la maison, devient un objet. Il n'y a personne, devient un objet. La réalisation devient un objet. Même conscience ou la réalité devient un objet. Parce qu'il y a toujours l'idée, je ne suis pas ça, je suis ça. Je suis libre, au lieu de ne pas être libre. C'est une position, un endroit, une compréhension. Si je peux dire, si nous pouvons dire, je suis libre, mais aussi je ne suis pas libre. Qu'est-ce que je m'en fous? Si je suis libre ou si je ne suis pas libre. Je suis là, je suis pas là. Il y a quelqu'un, il n'y a pas quelqu'un. Qu'est-ce que je m'en fous? Je suis en paix, je suis pas en paix. Qu'est-ce que je m'en fous? C'est la réalité, c'est pas la réalité. Qu'est-ce que je m'en fous? C'est un rêve, c'est pas un rêve. Qu'est-ce que je m'en fous? So the way of looking at it or understanding it is that the ego intellect is always trying to find a position, a place, a conclusion. And that's some kind of object. I'm free, I'm not free. I'm somebody, I'm nobody. I exist, I don't exist. I'm at home, I'm not at home. I've understood, I haven't understood. I'm realized, I'm not realized. I'm separate, I'm not separate. But in the end, if the ego intellect can say, I don't care if I'm free or not free. Who cares if I'm free or if I'm not free? Who cares if I exist, I don't exist? Who cares if I'm at home or not at home? Who cares if there's consciousness or no consciousness?
So the sentence I was looking for could be, I don't care.
But that becomes another attachment.
But if I do really don't care.
That's right. If
That's
you
right.
do still care, then don't pretend you don't
Yeah,
care.
sure.
S'il y a toujours une envie de comprendre ou d'être, ne fais pas semblant qu'il n'y a pas ça. Quand je dis je m'en fous, on ne peut pas faire semblant de dire je m'en fous. On peut le dire je m'en fous, mais au fait, intérieurement, quelque part, on s'en fout pas. On veut trouver, on veut réaliser, on veut comprendre. Oui? Alors c'est l'ego intellect qui joue ce petit jeu, qui fait semblant, qui se cache à lui-même. Comme Ramana disait, l'ego est parfois comme un bandit, un voleur, qui se déguise en policier pour attraper le voleur. Sometimes the ego plays this game to pretend, I don't care. Yeah, I'm not searching anymore. Everything's okay. But it's not accurate. It's not authentic. It's not honest.
Yeah.
Because we're still coming to satsang. We're still watching the videos. We're still reading the books. We're still meditating. Or doing self-inquiry. Yes? Many of my friends, and I was the same, go to the ashram every day. They sit in the little meditation room or next to the samadhi or on the mountain, and they say, I'm not searching, I'm not looking for anything. And why are you going there and sitting doing self-inquiry? Oh, I just enjoy it. For about 9 months I was going to Ragi Satsangs regularly, and I was saying the same thing to myself. I'm not searching anymore, because I was always looking for inner peace. And at a certain moment I felt I have inner peace, because the conceptual description that Ramesh used was inner peace is being comfortable with yourself and comfortable with others. And I felt, yes, that's what I am now. That's my daily experience. Comfortable with myself, comfortable with others. I'm comfortable with any thoughts that come up, whatever arises. So for 9 months I was still going satsang, and I was saying to myself, oh Ragi, the search is over. I'm going because I like Ramesh, I like the group, I like the energy. Anyway, what else am I going to do with my life? I'm enjoying this. And one day, I don't know how it happened, but I said to myself, Ragi, that's not quite true, that's not quite accurate. You're lying to yourself. You're still searching for something. And that was a painful moment for me. But it allowed me to understand what I was searching for. And then I had to admit to myself, I'm searching for enlightenment, for self-realization. Which was never the thing I was interested in. I was interested in inner peace. So I realized that I had taken this concept of enlightenment, I'd caught it like a virus in satsang. Ce concept d'éveil, je l'ai chopé comme un virus dans le satsang. But it was liberating. It was painful, but it was liberating. And then for a few weeks, I asked Ramesh questions about enlightenment, self-realization. I read some books, some chapters of books about self-realization and enlightenment. And that cleared up some of the confusion. So we're all doing it. Everybody's doing it. It's the nature of the intellect ego. Perfectly normal. But it's useful to admit to oneself, okay, actually, I am still searching. What am I searching for? What do I still want? Either in my spiritual life or simply in my normal, everyday life. And it could be several things. There could be some things from the spiritual life and some things from normal everyday life. That's perfectly normal. And maybe what we're looking for, we will not actually find in a spiritual teaching. Maybe. Maybe it's something very practical, or physical, or emotional, that we're looking for. Maybe there's some needs which are not being satisfied from the spiritual teachings. That can only be satisfied in some other way. Maybe. For each of us, we have to look and find that, understand. And then of course it's always changing, isn't it? From week to week, or month to month, or year to year, it's changing. So some people call it a sort of vigilance, yes? Critical thinking. You keep checking. Okay? What do I want? Because in my experience, part of the part of the suffering, frustration, confusion, is just the seeking process itself. Une partie de la souffrance, la frustration, quoi que ce soit, c'est simplement le processus de chercher. C'est pas qu'il y a vraiment un manque. It's not because there's really something missing. So it's become a habit to search. And we actually get addicted to spiritual seeking. I was addicted to spiritual seeking. And then of course there's the addiction to certain kinds of spiritual experiences. Samadhi states, bliss, these peaceful states of no thoughts, open heart states, all these different states, hundreds and hundreds of different states. So we actually get addicted because the chemicals are very strong. The chemical reactions are wonderful in the brain and in the body. So we get addicted to this. We want it more and more and more. And somewhere we have an idea also, one day I will have it permanently. I will have a permanent state of peace, happiness, freedom, being at home, knowing, seeing, presence, now, whatever it is. We can't. We can't have a permanent state. So it's painful for the ego intellect to accept. I'm sometimes going to feel at home, I'm sometimes not going to feel at home. I'm sometimes going to feel nobody, I'm sometimes going to feel very much somebody. I'm sometimes going to be completely identified and getting angry or sad or having fear, and sometimes I'm not.
But what's the difference?
Then there's no difference.
Yeah.
I'm at home, I'm not at home. I'm somebody, I'm nobody. I'm angry or sad or fearful, or I'm happy, joyful, peaceful. There's a difference in terms of the experience, of course, but there's a deep understanding. I'm not just this experience. I'm not just this state. I'm not just this understanding. So the ego intellect stops searching for that. Because anything we find, even as experience, state, energy, feeling, can only be something in duality. It cannot be anything else. So the ego intellect understands whatever I find, whatever I experience, wherever I arrive, whatever this home is, can only be another kind of object. And the ego intellect understands, I am not just objects. I am objects. I am duality. I'm not just this. So if I'm all objects, if I'm all duality, but not just this, what am I looking for?
The baffling thing, the fascinating thing is that I am, in the place that you point at, right? Say, let go even that. Okay. I am doesn't feel I am as this feels I am. So when I say I am not all this, it kind of had the flavor of saying,
So
that's not satisfying.
at the word just, that's why I use the word just. See, there's what you just said is, I am not this.
I am not just this, sorry.
That's right. So I found that if I add the word just, then it's including, but it's open. Because you're right. To say, I found if I said to myself, I am not the body, repeating Maharaj and Ramana and all the others, it didn't feel accurate for me.
Yeah.
I am not the body. But then when I added, I am not just the body, that feels more accurate. That was my experience.
And in a way, the opposite could be said. And
Exactly.
I could say, I am just objects, because
Exactly.
that's what the voice is saying.
Exactly.
Right. And that, the other thing, whichever way you want to point, that it doesn't feel satisfying to this.
That's right.
And there's still maybe the expectation that this should be satisfied of that.
That's exactly it. That's precisely it. So therefore, could we say, I am dissatisfaction. I am dissatisfaction. Not I am dissatisfied. I am the very nature of dissatisfaction. I am anger. I am hatred. And we go on like that. Otherwise, the intellect ego is always, by its conditioning and nature, is always grasping what it likes.
Yeah. It's granted, and what is baffling is that this feeling of non-relationship between that and the thing that searching is doing this, being busy and talking, these streams of words. There's a feeling of that. What's that to me?
So can you say, I am baffling, or whatever the word is?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
And totally,
That's not effective.
totally,
Yeah,
totally accepted. No, I don't mean it just intellectually. I mean, there's a sensation, an emotion, an energy that comes with
Yes.
bafflement or feeling baffled.
Yes.
And sometimes we come there and we're dropping into it, feeling it, the pain, the discomfort, the tension, and then at a certain moment we want to come out of it through understanding or something like that. But if we continue dropping in, it becomes more uncomfortable, more painful, more desperate, more lonely, and then, do you see what I mean? So even with the tension, yes?
Yeah, but exactly what I was saying, that it's no, that I do something with tension, just I feel it.
Yes.
Just I feel it, and it's very,
Yes.
it's very alive, it's very strong.
If you equally understand and accept, I am this tension. When the tension is not there, I am still this tension. Because you are everything. You are everything in all the universes and beyond. So if that's accepted for a moment, what is there to find? What is there to understand? Where is there to go? What is there to be or not be? Just for a second, if that's understood, that's tasted. Not staying there, not doing anything with it. There's nothing else to look for, nothing else to become, nothing else to realize. Do you understand what I'm saying? Tu comprends ce que je veux dire?
Oui, je comprends, mais je sens que c'est encore un concept.
C'est un concept.
Ouais.
Mais à ce moment-là, tu as compris quelque chose au-delà des concepts. Tu sais quelque chose. Right? There's a knowing of something beyond the concept in that moment. Il y a une compréhension, il y a une connaissance de quelque chose au-delà des concepts. Et ça, c'est... Je ne peux jamais devenir ou être, parce que je suis déjà tout. Et rien, bien sûr. Et au-delà de ça. Oui? Tu vois la différence?
C'est de plus en plus clair pour moi dans les derniers mois, dans les dernières années, ça. Mais en même temps, c'est pas, je sais pas comment dire, c'est pas intégré, ça m'appartient pas complètement.
D'accord. Mais est-ce que tu es d'accord que l'intégration, c'est aussi un concept?
Oui, c'est une façon pour dire.
Non. C'est une croyance.
C'est ça que je voulais dire, c'est encore une croyance.
Voilà. Alors, il faut accepter ça. Rien ne peut être intégré. C'est un concept qui est utile à un certain moment sur le soi-disant chemin. Et finalement, si tu n'es pas un objet, qu'est-ce qui peut être intégré? Dis-moi, si tu n'es pas un objet, qu'est-ce qui peut être intégré? Est-ce que conscience, en tant que concept, conscience, Dieu, la vie, a besoin d'intégration?
Il se fait tout seul, c'est quelque chose qui se fait tout seul.
Non, ça n'existe pas. Ça n'a pas de validité. La dualité a disparu. C'est pas que ça se fait tout seul, ou c'est pas que conscience est déjà intégrée, non. Il n'y a plus de sens avec intégration ou pas d'intégration, parce que conscience n'est pas un objet.
Donc, ce que je voulais dire, c'est que une chose qui je ressens de plus en plus, et je pense que c'est clair qui dit que c'est vraiment une grande aide de voir que les choses se font tout seules, c'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a pas there is no doer. You know?
Oui, mais ça c'est un concept qui est utile. Mais toi tu es au-delà de ça, si je peux me permettre.
Quoi?
Si je peux me permettre,
Oui.
tu es au-delà de ce concept. Tu as déjà compris ce concept. Tu as déjà accepté ce concept. N'est-ce pas? Alors, on ne peut pas le ressortir de la boîte et le répéter et l'utiliser comme explication de ce qu'on veut ou ce qu'on ne veut pas. On accepte, ok, j'ai déjà compris ça, j'ai déjà accepté ça. Maintenant, qu'est-ce que je cherche? Tu cherches l'intégration ou tu cherches autre chose? Tu vois ce que je veux dire? Sinon, on est toujours simplement en train de répéter les concepts qu'on a compris et qu'on aime.
Non, c'est juste pour dire que c'est une aide formidable et j'aime beaucoup que je suis
Je sais, mais
je suis heureux de voir que la vie bouge tout seul.
Je sais, mais tu n'es pas là pour ça.
Non, bien sûr, bien sûr.
Je ne veux pas dire que tu n'es pas là ici spécifiquement, je veux dire en général. Essaye d'avouer à toi-même ce que tu cherches. I'm just encouraging to admit to himself that there's something he's still looking for, and not to just repeat the concepts he's already understood and accepted. What is it we're still looking for? Because we are here on a Sunday morning. It's just morning still, yeah? We could be doing anything else in life, but we are here. So something is motivating us or interesting us in being here, in hearing these concepts. What are we looking for?
So, one struggle that's going on is that the mind is again and again trying to claim itself as the experiencer, and it is masquerading, and like the whole clarity is going into the dustbin.
Wonderful. So now the identity is, I'm masquerading. Yay, look at me, I'm masquerading. Yes? Before the mind was pretending it was not masquerading. Now the mind is admitted, look at me, I'm masquerading. Do you understand? But are you this mind that's masquerading? Is that all you are? It's a good understanding. I'm not saying that. It's a very good understanding. Now I'm masquerading. Wonderful. Okay. Are you just this? No. So what are you?
I don't know.
Wonderful. So that feels different, doesn't it? Gosh. Finally, I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know if I'm consciousness or God. I don't know if I'm now or reality or present. I don't know. I don't know anything. How does that feel? Yeah, not bad. It's kind of different to pretending I know. I'm not even claiming there's a space or there's a, I am the not knowing. I'm genuinely saying, I don't know. I have no idea who I am. How does that feel? Do you understand? I know the two of you understand it. I just sense it because you've probably done so much practice in your life and heard so many teachings. But sometimes just to recognize it again in the moment, actually, yes, I have no idea who I am. I can make claims about who I am. I can use words or experiences or memory about who I am. I still don't know who I am. How does that feel in this moment? Ah. God. I quite like it. Personally, I quite like it. Having no idea who I am. And any thought or idea or concept that comes up doesn't feel accurate. Personnellement, j'aime sentir, goûter ce moment, de vraiment pas savoir qui je suis. Et n'importe quelle idée ou concept, expérience ou mémoire qui apparaît semble pas précis.
C'est comme un sourcil d'eau. C'est comme voir de l'eau quand on a touché, je sais pas, ouais. C'est beau. C'est comme. C'est presque joyeux, on peut dire. Je suis déjà là. C'est bon.
If I can mention, this has no connection with the practice I have done. Just because you said it, you made that connection. I feel the function of the practice was just burn out the striving. But it was striving to burn out striving, nothing else. In the end, I came to frustration, the feeling, this isn't helpful. This isn't doing anything. I mean, yeah, a little joy, a little peace, but not really what I'm here for. It's not achieving that.
Could you share with us the practice you're doing?
Well, any practice.
Any practice.
You put this a big box, yoga, meditation, something like just those things over a period of time. What I would say, which is interesting, also being here and observing what's happening, is that there is a learned. When I hear you say with a lot of ease, there's nothing else to search, which I find very, very beautiful, very nice. I can feel in myself there's a learned response of kind of shame when I imagine myself saying something like that. There is this learned response, and obviously it's just conditioning, and I can tell that. But still, it's something that cannot be said. I could not say something like that and feel harnessed, because this response. But this response has nothing to do with non-duality or anything. This response is in duality. So whether I say, even my claim of not being able to say that, still being searching something, has nothing to do with the topic of this gathering. But it's just a sentence I throw at you. So now I don't know. Now I'm insecure or whatever. But that thing is okay. This drama. I don't know if there's any comment about that. That came out of that. That's okay.
So if I ask you directly, is there something you're still looking for, searching?
Well, I would say the energy of searching. Yeah, but you see, it is kind of funny because that. I would say yes. I would say there is energy of searching, in a way, but it's in no way. There may be also some expectation toward some degree of expectation, a momentum from my practice, which is still kind of trying to, get something out of this. particularly here, I'd say, but it does manifest, and I can feel it. It's that energy. It's that, okay, now I'm gonna try now. But what I'm saying is that it seems that all this has nothing to do with whatever we thought with non-duality, if you want to use it, where all this is still well grounded in my world of me, the ego, and whatever. And so, I don't know, no tools, nothing to do with that. I can't even formulate it as a question, as you see, it's just, that's how it is.
So then if we change the nature of the question of inquiry away from what are we looking for to something like who do we think we are? Who do we know we are?
I just can't engage with that so much. Somehow there's something it would feel like an effort. I could do it, and I start thinking, but it would definitely be followed by a thought.
Is anything missing?
No.
Is there any moment of your life where anything is missing?
I can tell you now, nothing seems to be missing. Like how it appears. Any moment of my life is claiming, I'm going to put the story obviously, and I say, yeah. I sit and I think a lot about food these days. Somehow there's food coming up in my mind, and that's just what's happening.
So, if I may ask, what were you searching for before? Even long before? What was the...
I'd say love. Deep down, of course, the surface is awakening. I think underneath it's just being loved and appreciated.
And in some way you feel that now? You found it? You feel it? That you are that love that you were looking for? Or you don't need to get it or not get it in the same way? Something has changed, obviously.
Yes, I can feel it now. I do fall back and identify with the voice from time to time, which says, you have no friends, things like that. It seems silly to speak about it from a place where that is not present, but it does manifest. That is a manifestation.
So is there still some interest or even enjoyment from gatherings like this and hearing these concepts or the practices? Do you still get some enjoyment or interest from all this? You still practice something?
I sit.
So is it possible that actually you're not really looking for anything specific, but it's just kind of a habit that's sort of continuing a little bit?
That's how I define it. That's how I would interpret it, because I search things that I don't care about. Like it's just fascinating, this thing with food that's happening. I'm a monk, I do nothing, I don't have a wife, I hang out with my friend here for a few hours a day, and that's my moment of connection, and then for the rest of the time I sit, I go up the mountain, I look for a nice rock, and I sit. And there I'm thinking about what I'm cooking for the day. And there's a nice recipe, and I'm, fantasizing afterwards. All that stuff happening. But I don't care about food. So, it sounds more like my mom, honestly. I look at it, I don't want to feel it. But that's, yeah.
Do you have, because when you say, I don't care so much about it, it's possible that yes, in that moment you don't care about it, but actually in general, we do care about it.
Oh, yeah. it just sounds unproblematic. That's the feeling. It just doesn't feel problematic.
Unproblematic, yes.
So I kind of don't care, like, okay, it is happening, and it's kind of part of the landscape. You know, there's the temple, there's the mountain, and here is my recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it okay to care about things?
Yeah, thanks.
That would be a form of love as well. Even to care about ourselves, and our needs, and our desires.
Let's talk about desire a little bit, because it is a word that is still tainted in my mind. And then as I can see,
The word is tainted.
yes, years of training, obviously, I can still see it. But how do you, what is that to you?
So, you must understand, I really don't take a position. Even this word non-duality is not a position. I can't anymore take any position. I can't claim I believe in anything. I must tell you that. So from experience, I wasn't quite like you, although I did think about becoming a monk at one stage. And I was drawn to the, at the time, Buddhist tradition in Sri Lanka, but more the Vipassana tradition. You're sitting, meditating, watching. But I recognized that I had certain desires which I didn't want to give up. Not only the desire, but actually the so-called satisfaction of desire. Needs I didn't want to give up. So it became clear that path was not for me. So I went the other way for a while, which was to actually indulge in all my desires. I would add within the law. I don't think I broke any laws. And nothing particularly disgusting, because there can be all kinds of desires that momentarily come up as ideas, but there isn't really any movement in that desire. It's not really a desire in that sense. A desire would be something that comes up, it's there, there's an energy, there's a movement, and then it is fulfilled or not fulfilled. For me, that would be the desire. So experimenting with watching the desire, yes. Experimenting with suppressing certain desires, yes. And then experimenting with indulging the desires when they came up. That was my relationship with desire. And of course, then when I came to the Advaita teachings, these concepts of Ramesh, then the idea that desire was wrong totally disappeared. All these ideas of purifying and all that totally disappeared. Not only in the words of Ramesh, but just watching him live. And that was quite a relief. And then hearing him talk about guilt and shame and blame, there's no individual author. Tremendous relief. Tremendous relief. But in my conditioning, I'd anyway come more from the other side, maybe hearing what you're saying, which is not to deny or suppress, because my family was like that, my programming is like that. But some people come with a programming conditioning which is that desires are not good, that we should control them, that we should, that somehow enlightenment, understanding, peace, or whatever it is going to come from the suppression or the controlling or the whatever you want to call it, of desire. Yes. That's just our conditioning operating.
And how? Tell me if I'm too much, I'm going to stop.
Not at all. We'll take a break in a few minutes and we can continue.
Okay, maybe I keep it for
Yep. But just to add to that, then the understanding became so clear that any desire is God's desire. Any desire is God's desire. Tous les désirs sont les désirs de Dieu. Tous les désirs sont les désirs de consciousness. All desires are desires of consciousness, of life, of universal energy, of totality. That became very clear. So part of the guilt, shame, or whatever associated with that dissolved. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with desire. But then the manifestation of desire, or the consequence of desire, if it is followed, there's definitely a consequence to desires. Il y a des conséquences au désir, si c'est poursuivi. But the understanding became clear. All the consequences of all desires are also God, are also consciousness, the self. In absolute terms, toutes les conséquences aussi de tous les désirs sont conscience, Dieu, la vie, le soi. Dans le sens absolu.
Dans le sens qu'il n'y a personne qui décide et qui fait.
Pas tout à fait. Simplement que tout objet est conscience. Toutes les plantes, tous les animaux, tous les humains sont conscience. Toutes les pensées, tous les désirs, toutes les expériences sont conscience. Dans ce sens-là. Qu'il y a un auteur ou pas un auteur, c'est toujours conscience. Oui? Dans ce sens-là. Le concept absolu que tout est conscience, la vie, le soi.
C'est pas notre façon de dire, ça fait tout seul.
Bien sûr. Alors tous les désirs sont ça. Ils apparaissent, ils ont un mouvement, parfois c'est poursuivi, parfois c'est pas poursuivi, il y a des conséquences. Mais l'ensemble de tout ça est quand même conscience, le soi, Dieu, la vie, l'énergie universelle, la totalité, la réalité.
Il n'y a pas les méchants dedans.
Pardon?
Il n'y a pas les méchants.
Les méchants sont inclus. Les méchants sont aussi Dieu. That was the understanding. Everything is consciousness. So all desires, all consequences of all desires are also consciousness of life. So the intellectual paradox became resolved. Le paradoxe intellectuel, pour moi, était résolu. Why their desires? Where do they come from? What happens with them? All those questions became resolved because it's consciousness, it's God. What was more difficult to accept was the consequences of some desires. Ce qui était plus difficile à accepter après ça, c'était les conséquences de certains désirs. But after intellectually understanding that every desire is God's desire, every consequence is God's consequence, it became easier in daily life to accept the consequence of some desires. So the desire would come up, it was followed, there was a consequence. The consequence I liked, I did not like. Sometimes the desire brought a pleasurable consequence, but the pleasure turned into pain or discomfort. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes the desire I thought would bring me pleasure, it brought me pain or discomfort. So that was lived and experimented with, and seems to continue that way.
Culpability as well.
Culpability as well.
I have the impression that culpability is the last claim. I mean, it's the way to...
Culpabilité is
La
guilt.
culpabilité.
Guilt. Culpabilité, guilt, yes.
Guilt.
The last claim is blame. Culpability, culpabilité vient du blâme,
Yeah.
qui vient de l'idée je suis l'auteur.
Yeah.
But blame is more hidden than guilt sometimes, depending on our condition. we mustn't forget that some of our conditioning is not from our life. So even our relationship to desire is not only from our life, it's from our genetic, ancestral conditioning, inheritance. And we will be attracted to certain teachers or teachings in the same way. Either because we resonate with it subconsciously because of our inheritance, or we resonated with it. This is a more difficult one. We resonate with it because it's triggering some pain. On résonne avec un enseignant ou un enseignement, ou même des pratiques, parce qu'au fait, c'est en train de déclencher une douleur, un traumatisme. So there's a subconscious attraction to what is also painful. So the discovery of desire is the same thing. We might be rejecting certain desires or accepting certain desires because it's actually painful. And we're familiar with the pain. Subconsciously, we like the pain. We like the pain. We love the pain. So we want the pain subconsciously. So we're either going for the desire or denying the desire because we like the pain, not because of the pleasure. We most of the time think of it as a desire is going to be pleasurable or not. But when we connect with the pain side of ourselves, the trauma side of ourselves, it changes our relationship with desire.
You feel alive, so pain makes you alive.
Pain makes us alive. Pain confirms certain beliefs about ourselves, certain beliefs about the world. It's a strong energy, a force. Like Fabio was saying, I totally agree with you that sometimes we'll hear something or we'll think something, but we don't feel totally comfortable with it. Like you said, I was saying blah blah blah, and it seemed like I was very comfortable saying it. And you understand it and you accept it, but when you say it, it doesn't feel totally comfortable. So Ramesh had a nice concept, whereas this understanding of who we are, the nature of life, goes deeper, gets integrated, at some point it becomes intellectually accepted. And there's no more doubt, no more idea of forgetting or remembering, it's just always there intellectually. But in daily life, there's another so-called process of integration. And he described this like when we learn how to drive a car, sometimes we get a provisional permit, a permis provisoire. And we're driving the car in heavy traffic, let's say, and we don't feel comfortable, we feel stressed. Then sometime later, months or years later, we're driving a car in heavy traffic, and we suddenly recognized, I'm not stressed, I'm totally comfortable with this heavy traffic.
Could you repeat the last words?
It's a bit like the understanding as it deepens and gets integrated into our daily life, that like driving a car, at the beginning we feel maybe stressed or tense. Then some months or years later, the same situation in the car, in traffic, and we recognize, I'm now not stressed, I'm comfortable, I'm at ease. in that moment, or any moment, we never know when it's going to happen. It might have already happened, and we didn't recognize when it happened. Or we think it's not happened, but actually when we check, no, actually, I'm completely at ease with this. It's a bit like this, what I call the searching. Sometimes we think we're searching, but actually when we check, we're not really searching anymore. Sometimes we say, I'm not searching, and when we check, we are searching. So often what the intellect is saying is not accurate in the moment, because it's memory. And the habit of the ego, let's say, is to believe intellect, memory. But each time we check, it can be different to what we think or claim we believe or don't believe. What we're claiming about ourselves, or we're claiming about life. That's why the I don't know is interesting, because in that moment, that claim has stopped. And it's very clear there's something here which is very intimate. I use the word intimate. Very present. But there's no way of claiming it or describing it. And when I say here, I don't mean now in the present moment. That's another concept for me. It's only the present moment. For me, it's only a concept. Just this intimacy, this connectedness, this wholeness, this unity, or this separation, this tension, this pain, that's also very clear. And at some point, the ego intellect understands and deeply accepts, knows, I am also this. I have to be also this. It's obvious I am also this. I'm always this, whether it's happening or not happening. Okay. Oops. I said your name.
So,
Are you hiding from the law?
huh?
Are you hiding from the law or something?
There,
cut that bit
but
out.
there could be many of us.
There could be a many.
They don't see my face.
But not with the same beautiful voice.
Yeah.
We'll do a voice analysis. One day that's probably what will happen, huh?
No,
Instead of just the fingerprints at the customs.
I'm only concerned with my face. If my face comes in, then it's game over.
The face you can change, no?
I mean, how do you know it doesn't? Not really.
Exactly. Can I just draw your attention to the fact that in that moment when you were laughing, the question had disappeared? So, like we were doing the other day, there's no searching in that moment, is there? There's no questioning, there's no doubting, there's no nothing, there's no comparison, there's no... Do you agree? So before you ask a question, can you tell me once again, who are you then, in that moment? And is it okay? So one of the exercises I sometimes do is we then start talking like this. Hello, I don't know. Okay, I'm not Ragi, I'm not my history. Hello, I don't know. Who are you? Oh, you're also I don't know. Nice to meet you. Not that we have to hang on to it. It just becomes an interesting experiment. Sometimes we don't really need to know who we are. We can function very well in daily life without knowing or claiming who we are. Then in specific moments, we need to say a name or share some for practical reasons. Yeah? Like somebody calls our name, and if we've forgotten who we are, we can't respond to the name. So that will have a consequence. Yes. It once happened the other way around. When I was in the French army, I used my third name. My third name is Christian. And I decided to experiment when I started my military service. On the first day, they said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Christian." And I've always been called Ragi. So from then on, everybody there knew me as Christian. One day I was sitting eating lunch, and I heard the name Christian. So I turned my head. But there were 2 other Christians in the room. So I was no longer the only Ragi, I was one of 3 Christians. So my identity had changed a little bit. But in this I don't know, you wouldn't be able to respond to the name. Yes? We don't know whether we're consciousness or not consciousness. If we stretch the concept a little, we don't know whether we're alive or dead. We don't know whether we're dreaming or awake. We don't know whether we exist or not. Yes? There's absolutely nothing that can be claimed in that moment, because the intellect is not functioning like that. We see an object, seeing is happening, but we've forgotten the description of that object. The seeing is still happening, the hearing is still happening, yes? The tasting, the smelling, the touching is still happening, but we've forgotten all those descriptions. That's a kind of I don't know as well.
Yeah, I mean that would be a totally different kind of idea.
So those are the samadhi states, yes? But just like this, so-called consciously, the I don't know means that we've forgotten everything we know, we've forgotten all knowledge, we've forgotten all intellectual knowledge. But we can't deny there's something here, something that we are.
I am, but I don't know.
I exist, I am, I'm here. It's useful as a counterpoint to claiming what we are. That's the only usefulness, in my opinion, of this exercise. It sort of stretches the intellect mind a little bit more, yes? To include, I don't know. I know who I am, I don't know who I am. I'm comfortable with both. So now the question clearly comes from which part? The I don't know part or the I know part? Where does the question come from?
This question is from I know part.
I know part, exactly. And I would suggest all questions come from the I know part. And all answers therefore come from the I know part. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I find it amazing each time I do this exercise. It's so simple. I know, I don't know. All my questions, all my answers come from I know. I don't know, nothing to say, nothing to claim. It's impossible. So carry on. What's the question?
Yeah, my question was like what you mentioned that the assumption is that we desire something for pleasure, for experiencing pleasure. But you said that actually we desire because of our attraction to pain. So I wanted to understand, like, maybe with some example, like how I mean, I can understand that there are experiences where the pain is mixed with the pleasure, and the mind focuses, for example, something very, very, very spicy with a lot of chilies. So there is a pain of, the chili little bit, but at the same time there is pleasure. So the mind is focusing on the pleasure part, and it is attracted to it. But there is pleasure and the pain, and it is even in those cases, at least from what I see, that even there the mind is kind of attracted to the pleasure only in the desire, and it is kind of not looking at the pain part of it. So I'm trying to understand, like, how I am attracted to, how my desire is actually the desire for pain.
Good. So can we see that sometimes desire is from the mind, what we call the mind, yes? And then it depends how we describe the mind. Is it the mind of thoughts? So let's say sometimes desire is from the mind of thoughts. Sometimes desire is from the so-called physical body. Sometimes desire is from the so-called heart, the emotional body. Yes? Sometimes desire is what I call energetic, or the so-called energy body. So there are at least 4 different sources of desire. Yes? Now the mind desire we kind of understand. So let's say there's a physical or emotional desire. We've all experienced moments where we don't really understand why we have this desire. The mind of thoughts, the intellect, can't really understand what is this desire.
The mind desire you were talking about.
Yes. But it's happening, and we're experiencing this desire.
Yeah, like for example, say the desire for approval from others. Which I have actually wondered many times, like, why is there in me such a strong impulse to give approval?
So we can understand that need for approval comes from conditioning genes, yes? There are specific mechanisms. Then we can identify maybe certain experiences, the root of those desires, the desire for approval. We didn't get or we got a certain kind of approval. So then there's a lack. We can understand that all intellectually, yes? But in that original experience, there's a subconscious component, subconscious part, which is not understood much of the time. If we investigate it, do therapy, whatever, we can bring it to the so-called conscious mind. And that's very helpful. But there's still a part that's beyond the so-called mind, because it's what I call an energetic emotional charge. From every experience, it's basically an energetic experience, and there's an emotional component. So that remains somewhere in the cellular memory. Then there's an interpretation of that experience by what's called the mind, in the form of thoughts, memory, intellectual memory. So the next time the desire comes up, we might think or believe we're following the desire or experience the desire because of what we think. But actually it's also that energetic emotional memory that's being triggered in that moment. So the reason I include the pain part is because the pain component exists in that original experience sometimes. So there's a pain component in that energy, in that emotion that's in the cellular memory. Let's say sadness. We had an experience, where there was deep sadness. Let's say abandonment and sadness. So that memory of abandonment and sadness is in the cellular memory, not as the words abandonment or sadness, but as an energy. Yes? Abandonment is a certain energy. Sadness is a certain energy. So we meet somebody, and let's say we fall in love or we're attracted to that person. The obvious things are, the looks, the smell, all this kind of stuff. What's also attracting us to that person is our energy of abandonment and sadness is resonating or connecting with their energy of abandonment or sadness. So there's a strange opportunity, which is subconscious, to get sadness and abandonment in that experience. It's not judged as right and wrong. It's not judged as pleasure or pain, because the energy isn't functioning like that. Only the intellect creates the right and wrong. Yes? Pleasure, pain. But the energy is literally attracted to that energy. Our pain wants to experience that pain, wants to connect with that pain. Some teachers describe it as a pain body. Yes? It's described psychologically in different ways. Yes? Our shadow side is attracted to their shadow side. Yeah? So, several things are happening. We get a kind of a satisfaction when there's that connection. Our pain body connects with the other pain body. There's a kind of a satisfaction.
Yeah,
a kind of a recognition.
Yeah, because it's like you become one with the other person. You find the common ground.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I am also lonely,
Yeah.
you are also lonely. But Ragi, what I'm trying to understand is because...
but that's only part of it. So the other thing that gets confirmed is the belief around the experience. So there's that abandonment sadness, which is the energy and the emotion, yes? In the cellular memory. But with that has developed over time a belief about ourselves, an egoic belief. Even a negative belief is still something the ego wants or likes, needs. It confirms something. I am stupid, yes? So I meet the belief I am stupid in that experience. Somebody confirms to me I am stupid. I like it. Part of me doesn't like it, of course. Part of me is rejecting it. Part of me is rejecting and resisting it, not wanting I am stupid. Another part of me deeply likes, loves I am stupid. I need approval. Part of me loves the idea I need approval. Why? Because it's become our identity. It's become part of our identity. The beliefs, we understand that, yes? But this energy and these emotions are part of our identity, part of our lived experience. Sadness or abandonment is part of our identity.
So, are you saying that a part of me enjoys the disapproval?
Absolutely, I'm saying that.
Or the abandonment?
Absolutely.
Because I have heard about the same thing, like the attraction to pain before, but I had never able to. I mean, I understood it in the context of like there is an experience where there is pain and pleasure mixed, and the mind focuses only on the pleasure aspect of it and attracts the whole thing. But to be attracted to pain is, I mean, I have heard it from other sources also about this, the same thing, that the mind is attracted to pain. And how, I mean, I don't know if you can share it, how did you discover this, that you are attracted to pain?
Well, let's take guilt. Yeah? Most of us have experienced guilt in our life because it's deeply rooted in our ancestors, our conditioning, inheritance. Yes? So most of us are born with this conditioning, which gets, let's say, activated because in our society at the moment, we're still directly or indirectly told that we're guilty. For me, the difference would be is if suddenly on the planet our conditioning changed and the old programs were not activated at birth or after birth.
Could you repeat the last one?
We're born with a conditioning of guilt, but we're born into a world where nobody's talking about guilt anymore. Nobody's saying you're basically a sinner, you're guilty. So the basic program doesn't get activated. The software doesn't get activated, yes? What's happening now is we're born with the programming, the conditioning, the software, and it gets activated by our environment. Family, religions, etc. Yes? So then we all have activated guilt, yeah? Which becomes a belief. Yeah? So the belief I am guilty is here. And this one belief, like all the beliefs, are filtering every experience we're having. If we see beliefs like filters, any experience at any moment is being filtered. I see the camera, it's being filtered by my beliefs, my experience, my programming. Yes? Now, with the camera, maybe guilt is not such a strong element of the filter. Yes? In another situation, guilt comes up strongly in that filter as my experience. I am guilty is coming up in that moment as the filter of that experience. Yes? Now we know this because in some situations we're in a similar experience and this guilt filter is not being activated. Let's say in the I don't know, or we've done a nice meditation, there's a period where somehow the nature of our life is completely different in that moment. Yes? We're perceiving life, we're experiencing life differently. We can say that the filters are dormant, or the filters are not functioning in the same way in that moment. The mind filters, let's say. So if we have this strong belief, I am guilty, and it's painful, that pain as an energy is also a filter. So desire comes up, and rather than desire looking for the absence of guilt, absence of that pain, desire is looking for the confirmation of that belief, the confirmation of that pain. Because the nature of part of the mind is to want to confirm what it already believes about itself or the world. It's just the way the mind intellect functions. That's also conditioning, programming. So if we spot that, if we recognize, and this is what started to happen to me, I'm actually being attracted to that person or that situation or that teacher or whatever it was, because of what I believe. When we spot it, okay, so it's a belief I have that's attracting me behind my desire. Then I check, okay, do I really believe that belief? Do I really believe I'm stupid? Do I really believe I'm guilty? And in that moment, sometimes we discover, no, I don't actually believe anymore that I'm stupid or I'm guilty. Although these thoughts and these beliefs are still coming up. The belief of the belief has actually disappeared. That's what I said the other day. If I call you a three-headed green monster, you don't believe it. Yes? But if I call you something which you believe, you will resonate with it, connect with it. So if I say to you, you are consciousness, you resonate with that. If I say to you, you are diarrhea, you don't resonate with it. Yes?
But if you say you're stupid,
If I say you're stupid,
then I don't have no reaction like a three-headed or something.
like, so one of the basic beliefs we have is we're not complete. So we're looking for some sort of completion, some sort of wholeness. If temporarily, momentarily, for a few seconds, that belief totally disappears, we've experimented with this, there's nothing missing. There's no idea or need to get anything to complete ourselves. Then the idea comes back, the belief comes back. So the belief is either a conscious belief, if we take the classifications of psychology, it's a conscious belief, or it's a subconscious belief. There's a part of the software programming that's consciously known, there's a part of the software programming that's not known. But it's still active. It's still behind our actions, our desires, our thoughts, our feelings. It's running all the time. Well, not all the time, but sometimes, yes? Conscious beliefs, subconscious beliefs.
Probably all the time.
But if we check that in another way, I am stupid. Yeah, I am stupid. Because the I am is what I am. I am what I am. So logically, I'm also stupid.
No, but if you say if you're three-headed something,
I am a three-headed monster.
yeah, but
with
the mind
six.
is not offended by that.
Yes. But what I'm saying is slightly different now, which is the I am is the recognition of eternal, infinite nature. Consciousness, God, blah, 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 yes? So that becomes the new identity. I am consciousness, God, everything. So stupidity is one of the infinite aspects of what I am as God. The ocean is all the waves. So the stupid wave is also the ocean. If I identify as being the ocean, I am the ocean, of course I am also the stupid wave. Yes? I don't have to change my nature as the stupid wave. I don't have to become intelligent. I'm stupid also. But the power and the consequence of the belief changes completely. Because the fundamental identity has changed. I'm no longer Ragi stupid. I am consciousness, the ocean stupid. And it seems quite amusing. So similarly, I am guilty. Okay, I'm guilty. It's consciousness, God, life. Guilt is what I am. You understand? I am pain. Definitely, I am pain. I am attracted to pain. Definitely, I am attracted to pain. But it's not so important or heavy, or the consequences are different.
Yeah.
Because the fundamental identity is completely shifted. That's what I meant about then I am all desires. Of course, I am all desires. So when Maharaj and people like that used to speak in this way, saying, I am awareness, yes, he was speaking from the identity of being the totality of awareness, existence, God, consciousness. So then to say I'm awareness is quite logical. Yeah? And when he went into the temple, the Shiva temple, and said, this Shiva lingam and a pile of shit are both God, it's from the same understanding. God is the lingam. God is also the pile of shit. But it's when the ego intellect is resisting something, either because it doesn't like it, it's fearful of it, yes? Then the basic thing, whatever the thing is, becomes much bigger. The molehill, you know the molehill, the expression, don't make a mountain out of a molehill.
Yes.
The molehill becomes a mountain. The little thought becomes a huge problem, a huge story. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, from the perspective of the ego, it becomes big.
So then, once all that's understood, then we can look at the root. Okay, so it's this so-called ego mind that's creating this dynamic, this issue. Changing the molehill into the mountain. The small issue becomes a big problem. Yes? We understood that mechanism. It's the changing of the identification which creates the issue. So then we look at the root. So this ego, this little I, is at the center of all this. This is what is identifying or not identifying. Little I thought comes up, identifies or does not identify. Yes? So what is this I thought? Is there really a little I and a big I? Is there really me and God consciousness life? Does that actually exist? We experience the identification. We're not denying that. Yes? And that identification might continue in different ways, pleasurable or painful. We're just looking at, does this little I actually exist in relation to the big I? Or does the big I actually exist in relation to the little I? What is this relationship? Are there two I's? Are there two I's? Mon sens says no. Are there two I's? Est-ce qu'il y a deux jeux? Le grand jeu et le petit jeu? Est-ce qu'il y a deux jeux? Est-ce qu'il y a un grand jeu, conscience, la vie, Dieu, et un petit jeu, moi? Est-ce qu'il y a vraiment deux jeux? So the understanding is, I am experiencing identification, tension, searching, happiness, peace, love, desire, no desire. That's an experience of the little I as the body-mind organism in this so-called life of duality. Fine. But the understanding is, this little I that's having this experience, the same experience, pleasurable or painful, has never been a separate little I. It's never existed as a separate little I. It's always been, we can say it conceptually, it's always been the big I, God's self, life, having this experience of duality as the body-mind organism. Likes, dislikes, preferences, desires, needs, even beliefs. It's not a question of getting rid of the little I. It's not a question of purifying the little I. It's just been understood. This little I has never existed as a separate little I. So then, as we said the other day, then if I as the little I, the me, has never really existed, has God, life, consciousness existed? Does God, consciousness, life exist? Not as an object. No.
Yes, not as an object, but it exists.
Something exists.
Yes, something, yes.
Then I am that same something. The body, the me, my desires, my preferences, my needs, this experience is also the same something. Yay. So is there really a conscious, subconscious? Yes, in terms of the functioning of duality, there's a subconscious and a conscious mind. What is the subconscious? What is the conscious? The same something. What is pain? The same something. What is I am stupid? The same something. What is I have been abandoned, or I am not loved, or I am not complete? It's the same something. It's always the same something. Wherever I look, wherever I go, it's the same something. Different flavors, different tastes, different appearances. Yes, of course. That's the richness of life. It's always the same something. That's why Ramana said, when he was asked, why don't you travel and spread the teaching, more people, blah, blah, blah. And he said, where can I go where I am not already? Where can I go where I am not already? Où est-ce que je peux aller où je ne suis pas déjà? What can I become that I am not already? What can I realize that I am not already? Qu'est-ce que je peux devenir que je ne suis pas déjà? Qu'est-ce que je peux réaliser que je ne suis pas déjà? So self-realization, awakening, enlightenment, some people say is coming out of this illusion of separation, coming out of the belief of separation. It's coming out of the belief of being an individual, separate me. We can say it in many different ways. It's coming out of the idea. It's not actually becoming anything, because we've never been separate from that which we are. We're just coming out of the idea of being that. And that you already know. That part of you already knows that. God playing a game of hide and seek with himself. Has to be a man, because women wouldn't be so stupid. God playing hide and seek with himself, pretending not to know himself, and then one day saying, I've always been here. It's always been what I am, who I am. did Shakespeare say? Shakespeare, qu'est-ce qu'il a dit? All the world is a stage. Yes? God creates the stage. Then, because there's a stage, there have to be actors. Because there are actors, there has to be a script. There has to be movement, music, lights. Then, because there's all this, there has to be an audience watching it, experiencing it. All of it is God. Okay for today? It's a nice way to end with Shakespeare. And it's in my opinion, Shakespeare probably understood all this in his way.
Yes, many of his writings reflect that.
Maybe not, but it seems like he understood all this. In his private life, he was quite active. All his desires were coming out. You know, he was, so they say. I don't know, but he had quite a full private life. He didn't restrict his desires. He was fully enjoying his desires and the consequence of his desires. Yes. So, at some point, I was wondering about some of the stories I heard about some people, even monks or teachers, who had a very full life of desires. They were not restricting their desires. Yes? And I was wondering, how is it that this understanding is compatible with this behavior? And in other people, like Ramana, there was a completely different behavior. But it seemed to be the same understanding. And it became clear. The programming, the filters, the software changes in one and brings about that behavior. Desires are followed, consequences are faced, good or bad consequences. Everything is accepted. In the other, the filters change, and those desires go down, are not pursued. But it's the same life force, the same energy, the same author, consciousness, God, life, in both these types of human beings. The author is always the same. The energy is always the same. The life force is always the same. Just the manifestation is different. And if we really look at it, and if we admit it to ourselves, we're not in control of our desires. We can try and be in control of our desires, but it just is happening through us. Everything is just happening through us. We're just the instrument through which the life force is acting. The instrument cannot claim it is in control of the life force. And the instrument relaxes. I'm just an instrument through which the life force, God, consciousness is acting. But as the instrument, I can never escape the consequences of my actions. So there's gratitude when the action is, consequence is pleasant, satisfies our needs. And there's maybe pain or discomfort when it's not. Vous voulez partager quelque chose?
I try in French, sorry. Depuis la conversation qu'on a eue hier soir, tu sais, sur la table, tu disais il y a les concepts, et ensuite les concepts deviennent des croyances. Ça a touché quelque chose. Ça m'a agacé. Ça a agacé le moi, l'ego. Et quand je suis rentré, j'étais perturbé. J'ai un problème. Et ce matin, ça a disparu. Comme s'il y avait un hamster qui tournait dans une roue. Et ce matin, j'étais autant le hamster que la roue, que pas le hamster et la roue. Et là, quand tu parlais de ça, ça me faisait penser à quand tu joues aux jeux vidéo. Tu joues le soldat qui va tuer, mais tu joues le soldat, et tu prends du plaisir parce que tu n'es pas touché. Pourtant, il y a une souffrance. Et ces derniers jours en satsang, j'ai vu le plaisir et la souffrance à être là. En pensant que j'allais m'échapper de la souffrance. Et en fait, j'ai pas à m'en échapper. Et là, j'ai pas de questions.
Alors, la dualité à la base de la souffrance, plaisir-peine, ne va pas disparaître.
Je le sens.
Bon, mal, chaud, froid, blanc, noir, toutes les dualités ne vont pas disparaître avec cette compréhension.
C'est ça qui est accepté.
Mais l'attitude profonde vis-à-vis cette dualité va complètement changer. Qui fait que certaines souffrances psychologiques et émotionnelles vont disparaître. Et le reste des souffrances, émotions fortes, douleurs physiques ou douleurs matérielles financières, vont être vécues quand ils arrivent d'une manière différente. Vont être compris, acceptés, et les conséquences gérées ou vécues différemment. Merci.
Parce que tous les mots sont un concept. Tout ce qu'on décrit. Je regardais le tabouret tout à l'heure et je me disais, le tabouret est un concept. Et les formes et la couleur du tabouret, sans se faire appel à la mémoire, il y a juste une forme, même une couleur, c'est inventé, le rouge. Du coup, j'ai bloqué le tabouret.
Bloqué dans quel sens?
Je l'ai regardé.
Ah, d'accord.
longtemps.
Ou bien on pourrait dire, même en tant qu'un concept, le tabouret existe.
Ouais.
Mais le tabouret n'a jamais existé en tant qu'un objet séparé.
Puisqu'il apparaît dans...
Ça, c'est différent de dire que le tabouret n'existe pas.
Ouais.
Ce qui n'existe pas, c'est l'aspect individu séparé du tabouret. Mais le tabouret existe en tant qu'un aspect de la totalité. Comme une peinture, un chef-d'œuvre. Toutes les formes et les couleurs existent. On ne peut pas le nier. Mais on sait qu'il n'existe pas comme objet séparé dans le tableau. Ça, c'est clair. Alors, quand on comprend ça, tout ce qu'on vit, toute expérience, tout soi-disant objet, est compris de la même manière. Okay, we can stop today. On peut arrêter pour aujourd'hui. On finit avec quelques minutes de silence. continuously